Look, Dave, I can't put my finger on it, but I sense something strange about it.
Pray that you die easily.
Hi everybody, I'm E.J. Stevens,
And I'm Bill West.
and welcome to SCV In the Movies. We are on location.
Yeah, check this out.
Yeah, like the set? Pretty nice. We're actually down by Malibu Lake, down in little ways outside of the SCV, but we're here for a very special reason. We've got a very special guest who lives about halfway between us and Newhall, and tell us about the Star Trek thing.
I feel like this show has had a connection to Star Trek. We had Bobby Clark on, who was in the Gorn suit. Today we have Star Trek royalty here. We have the fellow that was in the pilot episode with William Shatner.
And we go from the Gorn to a god. You played a god in that.
Yes, and we have Gary Lockwood, who played in that episode.
On 2001.
And in 2001.
Yeah.
And like you said, played a god on that episode. It was quite an episode of Star Trek.
A few Elvis movies and a lot of stuff from Newhall. Welcome, Mr. Lockwood.
I appreciate your having me. Thank you very much. As far as being God, Roddenberry sent me the script to the Star Trek pilot, and I was off to do 2001. And it was hard to do television and movies. And if you had a big movie, you didn't want to do TV. And anyway, I'll cut you the chase. He made this pilot. It didn't sell, so he made a second one. Mm-hmm. That's the one I did. And I sent back, I read the script and I called him and I said, hey, Gene, because I had a relationship with him from The Lieutenant. He was a producer and writer of it. And I did a series called The Lieutenant, yeah. Anyway, I said, well, Gene, I play God or something like that. And my relationship was always back and forth with him. And he goes, yeah. And we all know that's who you think you are.
He thought you were overqualified for the role, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start. There is a Newhall connection because you're from Newhall, so that's our SCV in the movie connection. Let's start there. Tell us about the Newhall that I guess no longer exists, right? I mean, now there's 250,000 people up in the SCV. What was it like back then when you were growing up?
Well, how far back? Shall I go to like when I'm 5?
Sure.
Yeah, my grandfather gave me a horse. There's a couple right over there I'm looking at. I'm glad I don't have to take care of them, but I do like to look at them. But anyway, no, my father gave me a horse, and I rode it to Saugus Elementary.
Really?
And there was an old guy there who'd throw a little flake of hay out, and you'd give him 25 cents a week or something like that. And the greatest thing about having a horse in those days in that area is that I could go to the swimming hole and nobody else could go.
Really? Where was the swimming hole?
It was some kind of like, like an upwelling of water back in the mountains, back in there. And you got to remember there was nothing around. Now there's homes everywhere, and I drive. I don't even know where in the hell I am when I'm there now. But and then my father, before he hit the big time, we lived on what was the General Petroleum Pumping Station, which now is right opposite the entrance to Magic Mountain.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I used to go, I once made away with a Caterpillar tractor from my father's ranch and dammed up the stream down below there. I'm
Just
not kidding
because?
you. No, so I could swim. You know what I'm saying? I was one of those kind of kids. Yeah.
That's great.
So you're Gary Urosic is your original name, and
Yeah.
and your family was the Bunny Love family.
They ended up being when I was a kid, my father, we would wash carrots in bathtubs at this old rented house that we had. And then my father would leave with 50 boxes of carrots. And at the end, Bunny Love had 75 semis a day.
Really?
Wow. Now your father and your uncle helped develop this idea of creating these baby carrots, these carrots that kids take in their lunch every day.
Well,
you're
that's
related to those.
That's a little bit more like my uncle and later, than my father. My father was not so much for wanting to go big. And my cousin and I, whom nobody talks to me now, that I'm in the house with that whole family. But the end of the story is that I was tougher than they were. I kicked the hell out of one of my cousins.
Oh, that may have put you
Yeah.
on the outs.
Yeah,
That may have
that'll
had
do
something
it.
to do with it.
Yeah, he was bigger and stronger too. But I was faster. No, though, but that's been a phenomenon. Those little carrots. I mean, they're all the little bent up, beat up carrots, and now they're 40% of the market.
Amazing.
Because
Yeah.
your uncle recognized that they were just feeding
I-
these to
I-
horses.
I have no idea. The whole. Nobody ever spoke to me once I went off to college.
Once
Yeah.
you became a Hollywood actor.
Yeah, I
Once you went
became
Hollywood.
like one of those.
So tell us about you were a big track and football and basketball star, and
We have
Yeah.
your Hart High yearbook here, and I was flipping through it and saw, I knew you played football from the commentary track on 2001: A Space Odyssey.
yeah.
But I look in here and you're playing basketball. Apparently
Well,
you
no,
were into
I
sports
played
a lot.
basketball, and I was the first guy ever to win a medal for Hart High School in the CIF finals
Wow.
at Whittier High School.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. And I understand from talking to you earlier, you played baseball as well.
No, I only played 2 games, and I batted in summer, and it turned out that I got hits off Drysdale and Moriello, and Moriello, I think, was the first $100,000 bonus baby. And then, as I told you the story years later, I'm in a celebrity golf tournament with Ron Say, the Penguin from the Dodgers.
Sure.
And I tell him my story, how I played American Legion 2 games and got 4 hits and struck out 4 times out of 8 bats. And he said that was exactly his story.
Wow.
And he ended up in the majors about 3 years later.
Wow.
And so I said, well, why would they offer me a contract? And he said, same reason they did me. He said, hitting a baseball is probably the hardest thing to do in all of sport. I mean, as great as Michael Jordan was, he couldn't hit one very well. I mean, I'm
And
sorry,
that's what
Michael,
filled
I
the
didn't mean to say that. But greatest athlete I've ever seen, probably. But, he couldn't hit the curveball. So you got to be able to hit it all if you're going to be in that league,
And you proved right off the bat you could.
Well, I don't know if I got any curves. I wasn't sophisticated enough to know if they were curves. I just shot and hit it.
Wow.
so tell us about your football days in Newhall.
Well, I became a star because basically my high school never won anything. And then we beat Ventura High School 7-0. And I went into the end zone and scored the touchdown. And some guy grabbed me, and they were pissed off that I scored, so they drove me back and wrecked my ankle, and it stayed bad throughout my entire career.
Really?
And finally, I fixed it with a lot of Bikram yoga.
Is that right?
Yeah, I spent 15 years there. My daughter is a Bikram yoga teacher now. She has her own studio, pardon me, in Kauai.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how did you when did you start acting? When did that start?
I was mostly doing cowboy work. There were all these cowboy shows, and I'd go, and sometimes make a lot of money. One time I made a lot of money on a show where there was a cowboy. It's kind of funny. Shall I tell the story?
Sure.
Yeah.
There was a cowboy on there who was a rodeo cowboy. I just knew him because when I we used to ride in these rodeos with Monty Montana. I was a trick rider. And I remember seeing this older cowboy, and a lot of the cowboys were big, heavy drinkers. And this guy was one. And there was this Indian guy named Red. And we got picked, the three of us, to do this incredible downhill chase. I mean, not a downhill, and get to the caissons and go right and left. And the Indian almost lost his life. But I remember getting up to the top of the mountain and looking down, and I'm going, oh, this isn't going to work out. Well, there was a cowboy guy from Newhall, where I grew up, named Cowboy Rollins, and he was an assistant director, and I called him on the walkie-talkie, and I said, hey, I'm not doing this until we talk money. And he said, I knew that once you got up in that mountain and looked down, it cost us. So that was the biggest payday I ever had at that point. But what's interesting about growing up working on the old man's ranch, I one day was doing a movie with Elvis Presley, and I had to fly to Seattle on a Sunday. So I got double time. My paycheck was $10,000 a week, which came to $2,000 a day. But they made me fly on Sunday because they thought they needed me on Monday. So I'm sitting in an airplane flying into Seattle, making $4,000. You know that,
And this was,
you know what I'm saying? That's
what year?
that was a far cry.
That was like 62, something like that.
That's a pretty good call.
Yeah, I think this is the movie. It happened at the World's Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
So-
there you go.
Well, you were telling us Elvis was a pretty solid guy.
Oh, he's one of my favorite people. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite actor of all time was Jack Elam, but Elvis was a really good guy. He liked me because one day I was hustling one of the girls on the job on my first movie with him, and the football bounced at my feet. So I picked it up and I threw kind of a tight spiral to the Memphis bodyguards. There's
All
like
right.
15 of them. They call them the Memphis Mafia.
Yeah.
They were great guys, though. I loved them. You know, they really were. And one of them said, God dang, Gary can throw football. You know, you can't understand those guys. They're from Memphis. I was there 2 weeks ago, and I still can't understand them.
They need subtitles, right?
I remember Elvis had a cousin named Gino. One day he came and he had these leather cuffs like this. And when I was a kid growing up, my grandfather was a hardcore cowboy, and he used to call them, oh, they got these drugstore cowboys, you know what they used to call those kind of guys that wore all that fancy stuff. Anyway, so I go up to Elvis's cousin, Gino, and I said, he had these leather cuffs. I seen it. Did you hurt your wrists? They were tight. And he said, well, I'm sorry, man, I didn't hear you. What? Weather corps, Southwestern. I said, Gino, could you slow that down for me, man? I didn't get it. He said, they're called wristbands. Everybody in the South wears them.
But he somehow made it all one syllable, right?
Exactly. You know, it was one blur.
Yeah.
But I really liked Elvis a great deal. And when I was there, his wife, Priscilla, well, ex-wife, you know, he's gone, obviously. But when I was introduced to her, she said, oh, my God, Elvis thought a lot of you. And I said, same here. I ended up being the quarterback on Elvis's flag football team.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could throw the ball, and none of those Southern guys could throw it. Football rules in that part of the world. We're out here with surfing and horses and everything, you know, so we like football, but we don't really get it like they do down there.
They do.
Oh, yeah. It's Friday Night Lights is a reality in Texas.
Now, somewhere in the process, you went from being a stuntman and a sort of a roustabout to being a lead, and in fact, in The Magic Sword with Basil Rathbone.
Well, no, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay.
I went to see about doubling an actor named Tony Perkins who had legs the size of toothpicks. And I have these powerful Polish-German legs. And I was dressed in a basketball uniform because it was a basketball movie. And the director was a real famous man. He made Picnic and all these famous movies. And he's standing there with Carol Francis, who was a UCLA guy. And Carol Francis knew me in college because I was kind of a poker player, sell football ticket kind of guy, hustler guy. You know, I didn't like school. I lived in Malibu and drove a Porsche.
Okay.
You know, I was not part of the curriculum. It's
Extra
funny
curriculum.
now.
It was the curriculum.
It's funny now, but today somebody like me is not so unusual. But in my day, I was considered kind of weirdo, you know. But to me, I thought I was totally normal. You know, I thought they were all too straight. Anyway, where in the hell was I on this story? Oh, Elvis, yeah.
Yeah.
You know
Elvis
what?
and Anthony Perkins.
Elvis and Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins is what I'll finish.
But let's pause for a second here. We'll take a break and then we'll come back
Okay.
and finish the story. We're here with Gary Lockwood on SCV In the Movies.
Time to pray, Captain. Pray to me.
To you. Not to both of you.
Pray that you die easily.
There'll only be one of you in the end. One jealous God. If all this makes a God, or is it making him something else?
Your last chance, Kirk.
Oh, thank you. Did you see anyone's broccoli? You moved this? Thanks for helping us. No problem. Is this your You're welcome.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to SCV in the Movies. I'm here with my buddy E.J. Stevens, and I'm Bill West, but we're here with Gary Lockwood, and he was just about to tell us about Elvis and Anthony Perkins. Could you carry on from that point?
Well, Elvis could beat the hell out of Anthony Perkins.
I bet.
No, Anthony Perkins, I went to see, you had asked me how I became an actor. I went to see about doubling Anthony Perkins in a movie, a basketball movie, because I had been, and there was a guy from UCLA there who was a technical director named Carol Francis. And so the director was a real famous guy, you know. His name was Joshua Lockwood Logan. So you can already see what happened there. So he's looking at me and Carol Francis, and the cameraman's there saying, he can't double him. His legs are too big. And I was much thinner then, but still my legs were twice Perkins' size. And the director looked at me and he said, young man, he said, have you ever done any acting? And I guess if you really knew me, you'd laugh at that, you know, because I was always like a BS artist. And Carol Francis, he turned to Carol Francis, he said, you think this guy could, we've got a part for a Russian basketball player, he has to speak Russian. And he said, you know, we could maybe send him to somebody and train him or something and see if he could do it. And Carol Francis turned to this director, Joshua Logan, and said, I've known that guy in college. If there's anybody that can do it, it's that guy. He knew me to be kind of a hustler kind of guy.
Okay.
So he asked me to do it. So they give me these sides, you know, with Russian dialogue. Izvinite, pasholsta, you know, like that. And I've got to go see a professor of Russian at UCLA. Turns out he's in my poker game. So I ring his doorbell and he goes, oh my God, Giddy, how am I going to, of course you can do it. You're always teasing me in Russian at the table in Polish. And I said, don't tell him that. Take a few days and call him and tell him you've trained me. Isn't that funny?
That's great.
So I ended up doing the part. And Jane Fonda was a star. And one day Jane Fonda says, you know, you're kind of good at this. You know, and I thought, you know, candidly, I think you're either born an actor or you're not. I think you can train all these guys who go to all these studios and, you know, theater majors and everything. They don't like guys like me, you know. I'm a
weren't
guy.
gonna
I'm a
be
guy
your
without
natural.
training, and they resent you. I could name names, but I won't say it.
You're not going to believe this, but Bill and I haven't had any training either. I know that's pretty shocking.
I know.
Well, you guys are doing okay. You're happy, and the people pick up on that.
So, no, this was a film that you were doing, or was this a play?
I was doing a play.
You were doing a
No,
play.
I was doing a movie, and Jane Fonda was a star. Anyway, what happened was Jane said to me, she said, you're kind of good at this. Why don't you, pursue some acting? And so she calls an agency, and it turned out to be, one of the most famous agents in the world, like he handled Brando and Jimmy Dean and all these. And so, the rest was history.
Yeah. So
I ended up going to Broadway, and a lot of easy, I became an easy money guy through a lot of luck and serendipity. I when I was doing the play on Broadway, understudied the two leads and had a small part. And one night I got to the theater, and the guy that had the best part in probably all of New York, opposite Jane Fonda, he got beat up in a bar, and I didn't do it. No, but I remember getting there, and they said, "We've moved. Oh, Mr. Lockwood, we've moved your clothing from the nosebleed section down to room 2 next to Miss Fonda. You'll play Neil tonight." Wow. So I go out and play Neil, and I kicked the hell out of it. It was to me nothing. I'm not trying to be weird here, but I mean, that's how I looked at my career. So, everybody went crazy, and afterward, Henry Fonda and Elia Kazan come backstage, and Fonda comes up to me and says, "Very good," because they told everybody I was replacing this guy. And then Kazan came up to me, and he was, by then On the Waterfront and all these great films. He never did like me very much, but he came up to me and he looked at me and he said, "Where are you from?" And I was used to the East Coast, West Coast bias, particularly in acting. If you were from New York, you were in the theater and you were talented. And if you were from California, you were a cheerleader. And I looked at Kazan right into his eyes, because I was that kind of guy, and I said, "You won't like it, but I'm a cowboy surfer and I live in Malibu." and he said, "Well, I think you were the best thing in the play."
Wow.
So he put me in Splendor in the Grass.
Is that right?
And then from there, everything kind of.
So you didn't study like when you were at Hart High, you weren't in plays or anything like that?
Not really.
But so you just kind of basically.
Well, I'm writing my biography right now, and those who have known me, knowing my exploits, have said, "How are you going to do that?" I mean, I was a really kind of a notorious guy, and a lot of drugs and alcohol, fast cars and beautiful chicks, and I was from that group, and it was just a piece of cake.
Just something you felt.
Yeah. I mean,
And you can see that on the screen. I watched 2001 and the Star Trek episode over the weekend, and I was struck by how natural you were. Even when you're playing a god, you're underplaying it. It was really. You could tell it was a natural.
That was my style.
I could tell. And Frank Poole in 2001, you were just. Hal is about to, well, I won't give it away for anybody that hasn't seen it, but Hal the computer was about to do something bad, and you could just see under the surface that you were concerned about this. It was really
those were my intentions.
Yeah.
When you're an actor, you're a con man. I have to tell you, in writing my biography and looking back, there's a side of me that kind of feels a little worthless, because I became a movie star and I had a great life, saw the world. And at the same time, I didn't do anything, that was constructive for the planet other than this life where I just was wild and crazy. And, but don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful.
Well, film fans would disagree with
Yeah,
you,
I was
and
going to say,
television fans.
you did something great with entertaining the world. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
something to be
my
said for
father
that.
once, said I grow these carrots that the world eats, and you make all this money for doing nothing. Well, no, that was the difference in our lives.
Yeah.
He was from the old country, and I don't. Even my father, who made a lot of money in 1947, finally admitted that, no matter how life works, there's two things you need: some talent and some luck. And it's like landing on the beach at Guadalcanal. You could have been shot 2 seconds after you hit the beach, or you could have gone into the jungle and later lived to go to Kwajalein. So, it's very hard to explain. And I'm not a religious type. I don't have a lot of faith in mankind. I just, you know what I'm saying? I look at the whole thing like a great dance, and I was lucky enough to have good 2 feet, and so I had a really good ride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had fun back in the New Hall days and all the way till now, writing your autobiography.
Yeah, I'm still have fun. I life is great. I mean, I watched a football game. I have the NFL ticket, and I still watch that. At Sunday, I lock myself in my room, and I have a big television screen, and I go out to get coffee.
Did you ever think about being a pro athlete? I mean, that was your path at that point, right?
Well, I had
in
the
school?
opportunity to do it, yeah. Let me put it this way. My roommate, Jimmy Steffen, went off and played with the Lions. You got to remember the time period, 50s. He made $12,000, and I made about 50 just doing cowboy work that year.
Wow, wow.
So it was a lot more fun being in the movies than. I mean, I must tell you, I did a job with Dick Butkus one day, one of the toughest, meanest, best football players that ever lived. And he was kind of weird with me because I got weird with some guy who he was like a sycophant. He kept saying things to me and to Butkus, and finally I said, "Hey, pal, it's our lunch hour. Why don't you dust out of here?" And Butkus looked at me and said, "Hey, you got a little testy with that guy." And he said, "I heard you played football. Were you any good?" And that was an interesting moment because here I am with Butkus, one of the absolute best linebackers that ever walked the earth. Played with a crappy pro team that never won anything, but I mean, legendary in football. And here he's asking me something. And how do I answer? And then I just looked at him, and I remember saying, "You know something, Dick? Football players are crazy." And I still believe that. They're out of their mind during the game. It's like combat. And you watch them, how they act. They're just out of their mind. And then the game's over, and then they're supposed to be normal. They're not normal people. Football players are absolutely insane. and that side of the game I love. That the actual contest, I liked it because I always came out the star too. And then everybody would kiss my calipigia and say nice things to me, and I got a lot of perks and everything. But football itself, I hated it. I hated the practice. Tom Brady, 39-year-old quarterback for the Patriots, probably still loves practice. You know what I'm saying? And these coaches say you play the way you practice. I don't know. You know something? I know that when I played football, when the other team on defense particularly, when the play started, I saw it. And there's a guy, J.J. Watt, that plays for the Houston
The Texans, yeah.
Texans. I mean, he's unbelievable. There's these football players who have a motor on them, and they see everything. I mean, these Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for the Packers, I've never, ever seen any quarterback in my life ever that good when the pocket breaks down. I mean, he's running. Now, maybe you'll disagree and like some other guy from the 30s or 40s or whatever, But Aaron Rodgers on the dead rim will throw a 50-yard pass, or a 35-yard pass like a laser and hit that horse in the ass. And I'm telling you, that's a unique gift. That's part of your gene pool. And I don't think you develop that. I think that's, you know, it's in the gene pool, you know,
Yeah.
like Einstein.
And like you for acting. Now I brought up the magic sword because, and I realized I jumped ahead a little bit, and then I jumped all the way to 2001: A Space Odyssey. So let me jump back to the magic sword. You, that had to be early in your career, and yet you were the lead opposite
Basil Rathbone.
Basil Rathbone as the villain. That must have been quite a leap in your career. Or
He
was
hated
were you
me.
just taking-
Oh God, yeah. He was like an old Shakespearean type, you know.
And you're this fresh kid that comes out of nowhere as far
Yeah.
as he's concerned. Yeah.
That was his problem. I must tell you, in our industry, a lot of people have problems. That's their problem.
That's a great
You know,
attitude.
I really enjoyed the business, but when I left, I was 55 years old. I'm 80.
You don't look 80.
I never
Don't
missed
miss
it. I missed it. The only time I ever wished I was still acting, I'll tell you truthfully, is when I saw No Country for Old Men and Tommy Lee Jones playing that sheriff in that last speech in the kitchen after he's resigned. And I said, what's one of the greatest speeches I've ever seen an actor have? You know, about his daddy walking in, coming by and I'm on a horse, and the thing was on fire, and he just sits there and he sends it in. His wife is a very, very attractive woman, older woman, and making him breakfast. And I watched that scene and I said, holy Christ.
How'd you sleep?
I don't know. Had dreams.
Well, you got time for 'em now. Anything interesting?
There always is to the party concerned.
And Tom, I'll be polite.
All right, then. Two of them both had my father in them. It's peculiar. I'm older now than he ever was by 20 years. So, in a sense, he's the younger man. Anyway, the first one I don't remember too well, but it was about meeting him in town somewhere, and he gave me some money. I think I lost it. The second one, it was like we was both back in the older times. And I was a horseback, going through the mountains of a night, going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold, and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. And he had his blanket wrapped around him, and his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. He was fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there. Then I woke up.
Do you find yourself thinking, I could have done it differently, or no?
I don't think that's, you know, I quite respect Tommy Lee Jones' abilities. He's a very skilled actor. But no, I'm not saying I could do it better. I'm just saying the circumstances of the writing and the movie itself and everything came together to me to create the last really great film that I've seen. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I want to ask you about Kubrick, but we need to take a break here. So we'll come back and get into that here in just a moment.
And Star Trek.
And Star Trek.
More Star Trek,
That's
please.
right. In 2001.
He's a Trekkie, this guy.
So this is, I almost said 2001. This is 2017, actually. SCV in the Movies, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Listen, Hal. There's never been any instance at all of a computer error occurring in the 9000 series, has there?
None whatsoever, Frank. The 9000 series has a perfect operational record.
Well, of course, I know all the wonderful achievements of the 9000 series, but are you certain there's never been any case of even the most insignificant computer error?
None whatsoever, Frank. Quite honestly, I wouldn't worry myself about that.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to SCV In the Movies. We're here with Gary Lockwood. We were getting to the Kubrick thing, but we realized we kind of jumped around a little bit here.
Star Trek.
Okay, we'll get to Star Trek. But first, okay, let's do a little bit chronologically
Is it time
here.
for Star Trek?
Almost, Bill. Settle down. Come on.
All right.
So let's go back chronologically. You were born in, you were from Newhall.
I was born in Van Nuys.
You were born in Van Nuys, okay.
Yeah.
So you graduated from Newhall in '54, is that what you said?
Yeah.
At Hart High?
Yeah.
And so you were telling us about getting in this play. What year would that have been?
I think that would be 1960.
1960. And then after that, you were in, was it The Lieutenant? Is that your first?
Well, see, after Lieutenant, after that play, I did a series called Follow the Sun.
Follow the Sun, okay.
It was shot in Hawaii with Brett Halsey and Barry Coe and a whole host of fine actors, guest stars. That was a lot of fun, only because I loved being in Hawaii. And I got to work with a whole lot of actors who were old, famous guys and women. You know, so that was kind of a kick in the ass, you know.
So how did after that was the Lieutenant?
Yeah, then I did The Lieutenant.
And that was Roddenberry, right?
Yeah, I did 40 shows. I've played a Marine. I'm proud of one thing only in that show. We were shooting at the camp, you know, the boot camp in San Diego, where you, in these movies, the guy becomes a Marine and they have the parade ground. So we went down there to shoot a show. And they had a technical director from Alabama who didn't like me. He thought I was a Hollywood dickhead, I guess. And Colonel Stadler, who was our technical director, had won the Navy Cross, I think, in Korea. And he liked me because he thought that I tried to do my best to act like a real Marine, you know. So make a long story short. So one day, this Sergeant Kelly is running across the parade ground, and that's like one of our last shows, and I'm dead tired. I've had it. And I'm sitting up in the bleachers on my arm like this. And I obviously bring this story up because I'm going to brag. So I'm on my arm like this, and this dickhead Kelly goes running across the parade ground, and he sees me, and he starts running at me. He's in his fatigues, you know. And he gets about 3 steps into the bleachers, and I'm just watching him like, you know, this is going to be a big surprise for him. He thinks I'm a regular guy, you know. He slaps his chest like this, and he pulls out a card. And he said, you know, if you were a real Marine, you'd have to give me 50 right now. And I'm lying on my arm like this. And I go like this, and I do 10 one-arms.
Did you? Wow.
No, I could do it, though. And I go like this. You think 10 one-arms makes up for 50 of your, you know, whatever you guys do out
Your
here?
sissy push-ups?
Yeah. Oh, my God. He got so angry that he wanted to go in a dark room with me, which I didn't know what that went. And here's what happened. Colonel Stadler saw the whole thing. And when this guy Kelly assaulted me like that, wanting to fight me, Colonel Stadler ran over, and you know how in the movies they get face to face?
Yeah.
They really do. And I watched it happen. And he goes,
girl-
you know, Kelly, you stupid SOB, you want to be back in Alabama peeling spuds and being reduced back to a nothing, what you are in that brain now, you stupid. And he just reamed this guy.
Wow.
And I'll never forget. I guess this guy Kelly, if he sees this, he'll probably have me shot. I think his name was Kelly. He had a gold tooth. I remember that.
Now, E.J. mentioned Roddenberry. For our viewers that maybe don't know, he was the creator of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I presume that's where you met Gene Roddenberry?
Oh, absolutely. He produced a lieutenant, and Roddenberry was a real fine writer. That was his great skill. He also was a bit of a hustler. I think I always felt, that I shared that side with him. I think those of us in the business, we're all a little bit hustlers. I mean, we see that we've got you, so we're ringing you in, and that was Roddenberry. But he was very good at fixing problems story-wise. And if we had, he was always trying to get me to smile, and I'm not a smiley kind of guy. I smile sometimes at the writer. I mean, like in the movie I did with Elvis, I'm smiling all the time, but if you see the character, why wouldn't I be? So, but I don't like to gratuitously smile on screen. I think it's dumb. And these directors would always try to get me to smile. And I would say, hey, if Roddenberry wants me to smile, have him write it. And then I'll smile. You know what I mean? But I had a nice relationship with Roddenberry. And
presumably that's why he brought you back for the Star Trek pilot?
well, no, he didn't bring me back. He begged me to do it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He made a pilot, and it didn't sell. And in those days, I was kind of a hot actor, and on the way to do this big Kubrick movie. And he was given money for a second pilot. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is very rare for a
Never
TV
happened.
show. Never happened.
Never
for a TV
happened.
show to have a second
Yeah.
pilot.
So they gave him money, and he called me up, and he sends out that script and the God thing and all that. And he said, would you do it as a favor to me? And I liked him. And so, candidly, I did. And Roddenberry was a funny guy. I mean, he was really a character. I enjoyed my time with him. Oh, I'll give you an example. After we're finished with the show, he invites me to his home for dinner. That was before he was with Majel and all this. His original wife was a very attractive, kind of East Coast uppity type, very nice woman. Eugene's mother, I think, the son. And afterward, we have a nice meal and just a quiet dinner, and she cooks a great meal for us. And we're out on he had a beautiful home in Holmby Hills in the mountains. And we're out, and we're kind of drunk. And this is a funny story. And Roddenberry used to like to smoke these cigarettes, just normal cigarettes, like a Camel or a Lucky or whatever. And he would never knock the ashes off. So the ashes would go out and almost start bending like that. They were slightly elliptical. And I remember standing next to him, and he was a little bit taller than I am. And I look up at the ashes and I go, hey, Gene, do you have a little wire in there to hold it, And, at the end of the story is he tells me about his idea for Star Trek. And he tells me about how he's got this money to make a pilot, and he's going to, and then he explains the character Spock. Now, this is a true story. A lot of people don't give me credit for it, but let me tell you what happened. So now, if we weren't drunk, this wouldn't be a funny story, but we're pretty drunk. And he goes, so this character is logic, and so he said, do you have any idea who we should get to play that? And I said, well, unknown to most of you producers who don't really like actors, you think we're all like idiots. I know that. But because I am an actor, I'm on the floor, I know when there's other actors who are good, because I do, and I know how we make life easy and the dumb actors, and I can always tell the chick that you guys are having your way with because they get one line and they can't do it. And we're having this kind of conversation. But I said, you need somebody who's got some talent that's kind of weird looking. I remember this summer, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, I said, kind of strange looking guy. I remember this summer there was this really good actor I worked with. You had him on one of the shows. He was a Jewish guy from New York. He had one of those names that Jewish mothers name their kids, like Harold or Marvin or something like that. Or, oh yeah, his name was Leonard. And Roddenberry goes, Nimoy. And I said, yeah, that's the guy. So
Wow.
apparently, Leonard got the job.
Well, apparently,
Apparently,
yes.
yeah.
He got the gig.
I wonder if he did all right. What do you think?
I think he maybe
I don't
so.
know.
I know, but he and Shatner became very famous, and both of them never really liked. There was something. Those were two guys who couldn't handle their fame. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, McQueen was famous. Elvis was famous. Elvis was totally cool. He just couldn't go anywhere. But those guys could go places. I mean,
You knew Steve
McQueen was my friend. He and I, we'd go up to Fillmore, and I used to be a pool hustler, and Steve would love me beating people in bumper pool and snooker and stuff. And McQueen could go places, but Elvis is the only person I've ever known who just did not have a life.
Speaking of famous people you knew, I saw on scvhistory.com that somebody said growing up in Newhall you'd be tearing around in your Cadillac convertible with Tuesday Weld in the car. That's kind of a famous
I guess
friend.
sometime Tuesday and I would go up and visit my mother and father.
Yeah.
And she had a big white dog named Wolf. And Tuesday she was a wild character.
Was she?
Yeah, Tuesday and I had a very discombobulated, drunken relationship. But I liked her. She was.
Feel free to elaborate
Yeah,
more
sure.
on that.
Well,
I
I'll give you
understand.
one story. I'll give you one story at Tuesday. My father and my family were successful, and they built a motel in the valley called the Doric, and so I took Tuesday there for a party, and now Tuesday is the big queen of the party because she's a beautiful movie star, and there was a lot of people there in the whole produce world that didn't like me. I mean, but I was a tough kid, and there's nothing they could do about it. They just would give me little barbs and things like that, and I'd say, cool your jets, or I'll drop you, that kind of thing. So one of these guys, my mother was very good looking. And so my mother is walking through the room, and everybody's drinking. My mother's walking through the room, and one of these farmer guys, who was a friend of my dad's, sticks his hand up my mother's dress, right up her dress like that.
Wow.
So I knocked the guy, I hit the guy so hard, he goes out the door and he hits the railing of the balcony and he falls over into a bunch of pittosporum bushes and stuff like that. They have the motels. It's a two-story. He falls, and my dad's down there talking to these people, and this big Italian guy that he grew up with is landing on the ground like that. And my dad says, "What the hell happened here?" And somebody said, "Gary hit him and knocked." So my father always wanted to beat me up anyway, real tough guy. And he decides it's time. So he runs upstairs. And I forgot to tell you, of all the women in my life, Tuesday was his favorite. And my father comes running into the room, and I could see all the venom in him, from the steps, I mean, that Polish German, not German, but Polish, and whatever, maybe a little Chinese in there. I have no idea. And he comes into the room like this, and Tuesday goes, John! He put his hand up Margaret's dress and Gary hit him. My father turned around and left.
So Tuesday came to your defense,
Well,
which you wouldn't have. You would have probably just taken the beating.
No, I wouldn't have. I'd have kicked the out of my dad. No, I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, all my life I wanted to.
That was the moment.
I was smart in school, and he always wanted me to be a farmer. You know, I mean, we had problems.
Wow. Sounds
And,
like Tuesday Weld saved the day right there, though, or changed the course of
Save the motel, maybe.
Yeah.
might have destroyed the motel.
Well, that whole family produce side, they don't talk to me anyway, so, you know, to hell with them.
Now, I'm going to jump around chronologically. I can't stay in order. But later you married Stephanie Power?
Yeah.
That's
I was married to her for about 5-6 years. You know, the 7-year itch.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful woman.
Yes.
Very talented woman, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great legs.
Do you ever have contact with her or Tuesday or anybody?
Well, those are questions I'd probably rather dodge.
Okay. Yeah. And
You know, because I cut a pretty notorious path.
Okay. Okay.
And there's a lot of stories about me inside our profession.
Sure. Okay.
You know what
okay.
I'm saying?
Okay.
And so...
and you're writing a book about it.
Yeah, I'm having a hell of a lot of fun.
I bet.
Oh,
I bet
no.
Yeah,
when's it coming out?
Oh, well, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I'm almost finished. I'm on my 3rd draft.
Okay.
I've been 2 years. I kind of think it is really kind of good.
Okay.
You know, I originally wanted to be a writer. I became an actor kind of by accident, as you know. I had intended to be a writer. I've read all my life. I'm a reading fool. I have iPads that I read on, and you know, I'm one of those kind of guys. I've been reading heavily since I was a little kid. The younger generation, they don't seem to read much anymore. They just go like that all the time. That's their business, but I think they're missing out a little bit.
I agree.
You know, it's like somebody said, "Hey, I saw 2001 on my iPhone," and I'm going, "Have at it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's 70 millimeter with lenses invented just for the movie, and you're watching it on your iPhone. How cool,
Yeah.
or how dumb.
Yeah. What
You
a
know?
shame.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
mean,
shame.
it's, you know, what George Bernard Shaw said, youth is wasted on the young, I guess. And I look back at my youth and I go, yeah. I mean, they're all pretty hip right now. They're smart and they're more knowledgeable than we were by miles. But there's a sort of tunnel vision. They don't seem to have a broad band, you know?
Speaking of 2001, I wanted to ask you before I forget. I was listening to the commentary track, and apparently at one point you thought Kubrick was going to fire you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
From 2001,
Now,
partway through the filming?
You were saying
Did you know
was
that? I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, and that was an incredibly long shoot, right? How long were you at it?
Oh, months.
Yeah.
Yeah. We. I can give you a little of that. That's a little. It's kind of long, but I mean, Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick were writing different scenes to increase the paranoia by the computer of us, and there's a side of me. You know, I won a national poster contest at Hart High School. I don't know if I brought that up. I was a painter as a kid. I had decided that Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke were moving in a direction that wasn't working with everything else.
Wow.
Because I wanted this movie, in my opinion, to be as great as possible, because when I got the job, I said to my agent, how much do I have to pay him? Because Kubrick is that much more talented than the rest of the world. Whether you agree or disagree, but if you're a film guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of maybe. It's just, you know, I mean, these people now, maybe the Coen brothers, you know, I don't know.
But it's interesting you recognize their talent, and yet you were about to say that you were going to tell him to
Well, no, but I had brought, increasing the paranoia, Arthur and Stanley decided to write their way out of it. And I don't know what it was in me that decided that was not the way to go. It just seemed petty. It didn't seem to have the dynamic that I thought everything we were functioning on. Everything, you have to understand, that's the greatest movie ever made. I mean, in my opinion. And the sets were beyond belief. I mean, it's just, everybody on it was brilliant.
And here you are
it was
suggesting
complete.
they change it.
And I'm against something, and I felt kind of stupid. And I actually reverted back to my hometown. And Kubrick looked over it, and we're doing this scene, and I was kind of dejected. And he looked at me, and very cool guy, God, you know, just so cool. And he goes, Lockwood, you don't seem to be your ebullient self. Is there something wrong? And I just decided to do it. And I said, you know, Stanley, I grew up in a little town called Newhall. And there was a girl there named Peggy Dahlman who had the greatest calipigi in the planet. And she would walk down and she would hand out the test papers. And when she got to me, I would always look up and say, hi, Peg, how about a piece? Yuck, yuck, yuck. Well, that's what this scene makes me think of, something that dumb. And he turns to his assistant director, and here's how cool he is. He goes, Eric, and the AD was a Cockney. Yes, Gov? It's a wrap. Well, it's 11 o'clock and most expensive movie ever made, and we're finished for the day. And
After
I go,
a comment you had just made.
Yeah. And I think, okay, this is it. I'm going to be back in Malibu surfing.
Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Right, right.
So, because he fired people all the time. So I go up to my room and I stayed very fit. I worked out. I used to hit heavy bag. I had a heavy bag in my room and I beat the hell out of the heavy bag. That was my exercise. Then I'd go get a fish dinner in London and chase a bird or two, you know? So the end of the story is the AD knocks on my door and he says, hey, mate, the Gov wants to see you. I said, am I fired? He says, don't know.
Oh, okay.
So I go down to his room. I was here. Stanley was in the middle, and Keir. We had real nice rooms, big room, like a bar and a bathroom. And I go in there, and I come in, and he looks at me. He says, you're Polish and German, right? And I said, yeah. He said, and he had a bar. And he said, schnapps or vodka? And I said, do you have tequila? And he said, I do. I said, I'll have tequila and a snifter. But before we have that drink, am I fired? And he said, no. He said, I have a habit over the years of paying attention to actors who I think have an intrinsic feeling about the project. And he said, and I just, there's something bothering you, isn't there? And I said, just that one thing, the paranoia as regards the computer. I just think we're going in the wrong area. I just, you know, I'm sorry. I don't want to be fired or anything. I mean, he said, no, I'm not going to fire you. He said, but I'm going to have my driver, Eddie, take you back, because I lived in London. And he said, he's going to stop, and I like deli food. And he said, he'll stop at Golders Green and get you, you know, bagels, lox, cream cheese, whitefish, whatever you might like. And he said, and then I want you to go back to your apartment. And then the punchline. And the next time I hear from you, let's see how you would handle it.
Oh, really? So you
That's what he said.
You like kind of put up or shut up. If you're going to make it better, make it better.
I basically.
Yeah.
So I went back, and in my life, I've had some good moments creatively. I mean, I'm not Kubrick. I don't mean that, but I have won certain things that you're not aware of, and I have confidence in my ability. And so I thought, well, Christ, what am I going to do? You know, so I got a spiral notebook out, and I started writing down everything I could to kind of bracket my mental exposures. You know what I'm saying? Way back in this gland back here, you know. And I had attended lectures before on how the brain works, and I kind of had some idea of what might come together by just putting everything down, and then I got it. And so about 9:30 that night, I get this epiphany, if you will. And by the way, Bill Lear once explained epiphany better than any human I've ever met. I asked him once. But anyway, the end of the story is I call Stanley about 9:30, and he sends a car for me. And I get there, and we, in the big pod, where he reads our lips and all that.
Yeah.
That's the longest scene in the film. It's 8.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We improvised that all through the night.
Really?
And then he then wrote a script based on all of our improvisation.
Huh. Really?
So that whole scene where Hal's reading your lips was spawned by your dissatisfaction on the set.
Yeah.
You know, another thing just occurred to me. Well, as far as I know, no 9,000 computers have been disconnected.
Well, no 9,000 computers ever fouled up before.
That's not what I mean. Well, I'm not so sure what he'd think about it.
That's why I can't say that it, you know, I didn't say lip reading. That was another guy who happened to walk in while we were discussing one day what's a good way for the computer to get the information. And this fella, I think his name was Victor Linden, if I might be wrong, but I think he went, why can't he just read your lips? And then Kubrick did the, if you see the film, you'll see that we get in and we say rotate the pod, and then he rotates the pod. Then Keir throws the electronics, disconnects us theoretically from the mothership. And then we yell rotate the pod, nothing happens. So we think we're safe. And then
Rotate the pod, please, Hal.
we actually, the original line that I had done is, he says, what do you think? And I said, well, frankly, Dave, I don't give a damn. You know, a play from Gone with the Wind.
Sure.
But Stanley decided to change that. And so I didn't, that's not what you saw. You saw a line that I dubbed in Spain. I had a year 400 report, a little reel to reel, and I put a microphone under a pot and put it in a closet. And it got the sound.
Is that right?
Wow.
Yeah, that here big high tech movie, and there's one line that was dubbed in a, you know, in Spain in a closet.
Wow.
But I really enjoyed my years around Kubrick. I stayed friendly with him. One day I went to his house to dinner, and when I'd come into London, and I met Peter Sellers, who was to me the best, most talented man that ever was an actor.
Really?
Well, that's my opinion. I've never known anyone that good. And we meet as we're both going in, and Sellers was a car junkie, and I had a little Mini Cooper, and he talked about my Mini. And then he looked at me and he said, you know, do you often come back here? And I said, yeah, I do on occasion. He said, so do I. He said, you know, we're rare. People are not invited back here much. I didn't know that.
Really?
Wow.
So I always thought that was totally cool.
Yeah,
Totally
well,
cool.
sure.
Yeah, you know,
It makes
totally
me-
cool.
It makes me look forward to your book even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're gonna,
Well, it's called, at the moment, Beyond the Pod Bay Doors, The Adventures of an Actor, Cowboy, Surfer Dude.
That's a great title. Love it.
Yeah. Well, let's take another break, and we'll come back for one more segment here. If you still have time, you good?
No, I live nearby.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just go watch Sunday Night Football.
All right. All right. Well, we'll be back in just a moment with more of Gary Lockwood here on SCV in the Movies.
I'll come back and let you out after I've rescued the Princess Helene.
Both if you can't come back.
With a magic armor, magic sword, magic steed, what can stop me now?
You don't know that George, let me
Carly, we try reminding people to be safe.
I know, Walker.
And yet they still do dangerous things.
What things, Ryder?
Like not following the rules of the road. Cyclists, to be safe, you need to be predictable. Signal. Don't make drivers guess your next move. And ride with traffic instead of facing traffic.
And drivers, don't get mad if there's a bike in your lane. Give the cyclist room, especially if the road is narrow or there are cars parked alongside.
Whether you walk,
ride,
or drive, share the road. Arrive alive.
This is E.J. Stevens on SCV In the Movies. Bill is off on assignment. We're still talking to Gary Lockwood here. And Mr. Lockwood, you had some interesting...
I'm back.
Oh. Oh.
This, I'm told, is the saddle you had in The Magic Sword that you
My
spent
God.
most of the movie on.
Oh, wow.
You know, that the guy, speaking of Santa Clarita Valley, the guy that Leroy Johnson was from Newhall, and those were his white horses.
Oh, really?
And every time I would raise one up in the air, you know, I had a little nail, and I'd tap it on the mane, and the horse would go up in the air like that.
Wow. So there's another SCV connection. Newhall horses in The Magic Sword.
Exactly.
Featuring Gary Lockwood.
Oh, a lot of the great cowboys were from that area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, Slim Pickens and all those guys.
Did you ever film up there?
Many times.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah. I did different jobs up there. I once filmed in those sort of nice section where they had big homes when I played the commissioner of football on Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun.
Well, at different times I was up there, yeah.
Well, what do you know about the saddle there, Bill?
I just know that it was the saddle that Gary was riding on in The Magic Sword, 1962.
God, how in the hell did you find that? Now, if that was from 2001, we'd both be rich.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, we're fans of The Magic Sword, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry
No,
to
that's right.
interrupt.
I was... we'll have to find out how Leon got a hold of this. And all
Leon's
that.
amazing.
I know.
That's our executive producer.
Yeah. So pretty
pulls strings that I don't
cool.
understand.
Yeah. That looks painful, though. I'm telling you.
I know.
Well, it depends on where you're riding.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you don't ride on this. Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, if you're a bad rider.
If you're a bad rider.
If you're a really bad rider, you sit here and then it keeps you on the horse and you can get the shot.
It keeps you stuck there. You know what? Bill showed this earlier, but this is the Tomahawk from 1954. And
your senior year.
Oh, my God.
So I don't know if this will be good television or not, but I just wanted to show you this. Now, have you seen one of these in a while?
Actually, I have. In my biography, Ruth Haney, who was the go-to girl in our class, the one with the good girl and nice girl, and she was the one who I called her up. I'm still friendly with her. She lives up in San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And she sent me one of these.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I have nothing from my career, nothing.
Yeah.
Really? What, you didn't save stuff?
I'm not a memorabilia guy.
No?
Wow.
It's all
the
in
amazing
here.
career you've had. I'm glad you're writing it down in your book.
I do have one poster in my house that my wife put up, and it's the lip reading scene.
Okay.
The one I get $150 for at autograph shows. Yeah, it's signed, and also it's signed by the guy who played Hal.
Really?
Yeah, and there are none of those around in the world, but the one I have.
Any truth to the old HAL IBM thing, or was? You ever
Oh,
heard
I
anything?
think that's like all things. Afterward, there's a million stories.
Okay.
And they're all bogus.
Okay.
Most of them are bogus.
Yeah.
No.
You make quite a career out of going to autograph shows and things, right?
Well, yeah, I do lectures too on 2001.
Do you?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you are and where you are, but if you're a film student in a college somewhere in the world, I'm a big cheese to you.
Hey, right,
because
right.
I come and talk and then
you
they
were
had-
God.
And you were God on
And you
Star
were
Trek.
God on Star Trek.
He's a Star Trek guy. I wasn't a big Star Trek fan.
Is that right?
Really?
No.
But
It's not my Star Trek was kind of a kiddie game, I thought.
So, but
I thought the themes of the shows were nice and they were honorable and everything, but you know, they'd shut a door and the wall would shake. I mean, it's not, you know, and they talked all the action, you know. Well, you know, because they couldn't afford to shoot it.
Yeah.
And
although you and Shatner have a great fight scene at the end of that episode. there was a lot more than talk.
I
going on there.
choreographed almost all that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hurry. You haven't much time. Gary, forgive me.
I had to do that show blind because I had those eyes I couldn't see.
Oh, I wondered how they did that.
Well, what we do is our whole profession is I'm also an architect, a part-time architect. I design homes and stuff for my friends and for me and things. And so I think there's a lot of connection between the arts, you know. What's the intention of this painting? What's the intention of this art? What's the intention of our story, you know? And so theoretically, you might say that everything I did in 2001 was aimed toward, you know, and the same thing in Star Trek. There's just something about Star Trek that didn't work for me, but it really did work for me in 2001. And so when I do these interviews, and the young kids who are real high IQ'd, who are in film school, and they're out there, they have come up with some of the greatest questions.
Oh, I bet.
And the fact that Q&A, when I do personal appearances, that's the best part of the day, because you get some young kids who are just so into 2001, you have no idea.
Wow.
And you know, they're young. They're like 23 or 4, 20.
When was the last time you saw the film?
I've seen it so many times that when I go, I just introduce it and split.
Okay, okay.
Well, they did it in L.A. here a while back at Cinematheque.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I went there, introduced it with Keir, and then I went across the street at Musso Frank and had a cowboy ribeye and a glass of tequila. And I came back for the Q&A.
Probably made the Q&A a lot more interesting, right?
Once in a while I get a little out of line, but I've learned over the years not to get too out of line. Basically, I'm kind of an obnoxious guy, really.
No.
No, I mean, I'm a Hellraiser guy.
We're shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you and Keir friends?
Very.
Your co-star?
Very
in
good
2001?
friends. We're kind of yin and yang.
Okay.
But he's a really dear guy, and he loves to read, and I like to read. So we talk about books, and we talk about, you know, like next year, 2001 is going to be 50 years old.
That's right.
And so Doug Trumbull, who did all the special effects, orchestrated almost all of them. He and I and Keir are thinking about what to do for the 50th. You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think Doug will probably lead the direction of what we're going to do.
And hopefully your book's out then, right?
Oh, but my book will definitely be out for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I'm kind of in the back of my mind waiting to put it out.
Oh, in time for that.
Yeah, I've had a few publishers talk to me, but, you know, they're not offering enough for me to make a deal. I have a feeling it's going to do okay. I don't know, you know, everything you do in life, you know, you make, like in 2001, I knew we were going to be a hit. And I really enjoyed that side of my being. I'll tell you why. I went out on a limb when I was traveling cross country to help sell the movie. And we opened up on April 3rd, I think, 1968 in Washington, D.C., which I thought was really a bad choice because Washington, D.C. is not only a swamp, I think politicians are like shoe salesmen. No, I do. I mean, I'm not into them at all. And I mean, I'm sure there's some good ones and all that, but you know, I look at them on TV and they kind of look like the old boys club, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very unhappy with the political state in America. You know, it annoys me no end. But the point that I'm trying to make is that what do? You know, you live and you die, you know, in L.A., as Billy Friedkin did. So when you're all finished with your life, you look back and you say, what the hell was it all about, Alfie? And I guess I'm to that point, but I sure as hell enjoyed the ride.
Well,
I really had a great time.
We can't wait for the book.
Yeah.
we'll be
Save
the first
2
ones.
copies, please.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of enthusiasm from people toward the book. And on the other hand, I'm a bit of a con man trying to generate that.
Of course. Well,
you know what I'm
you
saying?
got to do, sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you read it and you go over it and you look and
Don't forget the chapter about Santa Clarita and Newhall. And
I have some of that in there.
Do you?
Good.
I have a little bit, not too much,
Oh.
but I have a little bit. Yeah, I do that. I covered it.
Do you ever come up to Newhall ever?
Usually I just haul ass on I-5.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
But I had Newhall was in the early days until I was around 15, 16 years ago, 15 or 16 years, really, I really enjoyed my life there. But I didn't like working on my old man's ranch. You know, I mean, he'd get me up at 5 o'clock and say, the horses are out in Highway 14. Or you've got to come and, you know, I've got 50 Mexicans coming up to cut the tops off carrots, and you got to help me dig them up in the morning so that, you know, they're, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah, it was time
you
for
couldn't
you to
even
move on.
touch the steering wheel. It was frozen, you know. So I hated that whole life. And I remember this. One day my old man went to Hawaii for a couple of weeks with my mother. And my mother loved me. You know, I mean, my mother was like, I would star in sports or whatever, and my mother would be there in the stands for everything I ever did. And I had a pretty good, I guess you might say I was a mama's boy, you know, and I had a good left hook for a mama's boy. Anyway, my old man comes back from Hawaii, and my mother, and we had by then a big, beautiful home. I mean, really something nice. And I think my aunt still lives in it. And the end of the story is my father, the minute he gets home, he goes out to his ranch. You know, I mean, it was his baby. And he gets there, and the semi's gone. And the regular driver is on the bobtail. The semi was 650 units, and the bobtail was 300. Where was the money? You got paid as a driver for the amount of units you unloaded.
Okay.
Okay? So think about it. I'm the boss's son, but I'm always driving the bobtail, and this old redneck guy is always driving the semi.
Okay.
So my dad's gone, and the redneck and I got into it. But we didn't have a fight. He was a pretty tough guy, but I just said, I'm driving that, and that's it. When my old man comes back, he'll kick me off that, and that'll be the end of it. So while these 2 weeks are gone, I'm driving the semi. And he decided that rather than, you know, get into it with me, he was a pretty tough guy. I might have lost, I don't know. But the end of the story is my old man gets back, and the semi's gone, and Rusty is loading up the bobtail. And my old man runs to there was those scales near our packing shed where we process carrots. And he gets there and he parks his truck, and I knew he was out of his mind. And he runs up and he grabs the handle on the semi and he looks at me. He says, "Get out of there." And I said, "I'm not getting out. That redneck's making all the money and I'm your son. And I'm going to school pretty soon. I'm going to be out of your life. And I'm driving this semi until, you know, I leave this town." And he went, "Okay." And that was a part of him that I never could understand. He would always push me, and then at the end he would, you know, because he realized that I was him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It sounds like you guys were probably very similar in a way.
Completely.
Right? Is that right?
Only
Okay.
he was a much more honorable guy. You know what I'm saying? He was more honorable. I was more a poker player. Yeah, sure.
Well, that'll make the book a lot more interesting.
Yes.
Being dishonorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll close with this. One year in the Rose Bowl, I owned a whole lot of tickets.
Okay.
Because I gave guys money in the early part of the year for the rights to their Rose Bowl. And I ended up, I can't tell you the whole story, but I ended up selling them to a guy from Chicago.
Okay.
Who came to pick up the tickets at UCLA in early December in a top coat. And I remember I met him and I said, "Hey, this is LA. What are you doing in a top coat?" And I guess he was a Chicago guy, you know. And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "You've got a top coat. You're here at UCLA. I don't know your name. I'll call you Herman." Remember that cartoon character, Herman?
Yeah.
I said, "I'll call you Herman." And he goes, "I don't care what you call me as long as you got those tickets." I'll never forget. So the end of the story is I make a lot of money. I really make a lot of money. And I had a Christmas tree lot on the corner of Wilshire and Westwood.
Oh, really?
I was rolling in cash. And everybody in school would go to Laguna or Palm Springs for their mid-semester breaks, and I'd go to Acapulco.
Oh, okay. Wow.
You know, that's the kind of guy I was when I was younger. So when I ended up going to become a movie star, one of my UCLA guys saw me one day in Coogie's Malibu Cafe. Yeah, I think it's now something else. But and this guy with him was a civilian, a non-industry type guy. And he sees me, recognizes me, and my buddy was a surfer with me, you know, but he is also a diving and swimming coach at UCLA. And he knew my exploits. And so he says to my friend Matakis, he says, "You know that guy? That guy's famous." And Matakis said, "Yeah, I know him." He said, "God, I'd really like to meet him," you know. And I can hear him talking, and I go, "Okay, I'd been through this from time to time." And Matakis looked down and he said, "I would like you to meet my friend Gary Lockwood, who took a pay cut to become a movie star." Well, you know, that was my rep.
Well, we're glad you did take that pay cut and went on to become a movie star.
Yes, we are, and we truly can't wait for the book. This has been an absolute pleasure for us. We thank you for coming over the hill to see us. We wanted to thank Keith Larson and his family for hosting us here in this beautiful place at Malibu Lake.
We're staying here for every episode. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, we're just moving in.
We're just going to move in. This is way better than the studio.
The weather's nice.
The weather's great.
Yeah.
Yes. But we thank you very much for joining us. This has been one of our favorites, and we've had a lot of favorites here on SCV in the Movies, and we hope you join us again sometime here on SCV TV.
We had a great time here with the star, Gary Lockwood, and his saddle.
And we're going to put you up on top of that when we're done here.
We are?
Yeah. And we will
maybe
we'll make the book then, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you're able to get me to do that, I'll give you an entire chapter.
That would be be our biggest honor ever.